Okay, so this tutorial will take you through how to set up gravity and jumping for your game. Just to know where we're starting from, we've got a very basic setup with a single sprite. It's worth noting that the sprite is placed on the y-axis at 300 pixels down on the screen. We're going to consider this to be our ground. And then we have a basic character. Okay, it's got a few other bits left over from previous tutorials like firing and things, but that's not actually going to be any of the focus on here. So at the moment, nothing works. It's just a static character, and I say it's at 300 pixels down on the screen. Okay, so from here, we're going to add some new variables to our character. One, we're going to put some gravity on them. Okay, and we're going to set the gravity level to 0.5. Okay, if you increase the gravity level, it will just mean the character will fall faster. Okay, so that's something you can play with later. The jump velocity, all of these are going to be linked to the sprite, so it should be self dot. The jump velocity, now this will be the power that they leave the ground with. It's going to be a negative force because we need to push up. Okay, we're going to have, and again, vertical velocity. Okay, now this one here is going to be the current velocity of the sprite. So this is the one that we'll be adjusting as the sprite kind of gets towards the top of their jump and comes back down again. So initially the vertical velocity will be negative as the sprite goes up, and then it will slowly turn positive as it comes back down again. And the last one we're going to have in here is another variable where we're going to have a Boolean, so we can test if they are jumping or not. Okay, now back to our main area here. I think, have I got... Right, okay, so we're going to go back to here first, and we're going to need to put a new event in. So this is similar to the movement ones. It's going to be an event type where we're going to be checking for a key down. And in this case, I'm going to check for key space. And I also want to check that the character, so this character here, the player itself, and I'm going to access that is jumping. Okay, so I want to make sure that they're not jumping at the same time, because otherwise the person can hold the space bar and they can kind of double jump in the game. So this is prevent any double jumping. They won't be able to jump again until they've hit the floor. So again, if your game needs something different there, that's something you can play with and change. So once we do that, we're going to want to change the vertical velocity. So we're actually going to call a method called jump. Now this is something I've already put into the character. So if we look down here and have a look at this. So this is a new method called jump. And what we do here is we set the vertical velocity to the jump velocity. So just a quick reminder, the jump velocity is -10. So straight away we've put the velocity moving upwards at a rate of 10. And then we now say that the player is now jumping. So what we do now is we go to the update function. Remember, this update function is called every time the screen updates, so around 60 times per second. And what we do to the player's vertical velocity is we add the gravity to them. So vertical velocity at the moment, it has been set to -10. And then we add 0.5. So every time this updates, it's slowly going to make this number smaller back until we get to 0. And then it will start to become positive, which means then the player will kind of reach a point of jumping high, and then it will speed up as they come back down again. So we'll also get a nice motion with this. The initial vertical velocity will be strong as the player leaves the ground. It will slow as they get to the peak of their jump, and then they will come back down slowly before picking up pace and hitting the floor again. Then to reflect that, we've got to change the y coordinate of the player, and we're going to apply this vertical velocity to it. So if you remember, initially we set the y to 300. So minus what would be 9.5 will be applied first because it'll be set to minus 10. We apply the gravity, and so they will move up by 9.5 pixels. Then it will come back round again, and they will move up a further 9 pixels, and so on. Now, eventually, as I say, the vertical velocity is going to go past the point of 0, and it will start to become a positive number, and the player will start to fall back down again. So we've then got to get the player to realize when they hit the floor. So we need to check the bottom of the rectangle. So in other words, where their feet are, and if it becomes greater or equal to 300. Now, this is not perfect. These are magic numbers that I'm putting into the code here. You'll be better off having something in your settings that would state where the floor is rather than having these numbers being input like this. This isn't the best idea for future-proofing it. Okay, but 300 is our ground floor. Once we hit that, we're going to then set the bottom of the character to equal that. Okay, so the actual character will then want to sit on the floor. So what will actually happen when the game's being played and they're just standing on the floor? The gravity will still be applied to them. It will take them, excuse me, above 300, which will then set them back to 300. You will not notice that kind of flicker with the character because this is all done before the character is drawn to the screen. Now, if they're on the floor, then their vertical velocity can be set back to 0 because they're not moving vertically at all. And the is jumping can be set to false. So we'll give this a go and demonstrate this first, and then I'll talk about where there's some improvements can be. So if I press the space bar, okay, we get a really nice jump in motion. So where could you improve on this? Well, one, as I said before, not having this magic number here and moving the floor level into your settings of your game would be a better idea. And I think really that's probably it for this one. I think if you did that, that would improve it. I suppose the gravity, you could argue, if you were going to apply the same gravity to all objects in your game, which would make sense, this could also be moved into the settings rather than being a private property of the character itself. Okay, I hope that helps you implement the jumping mechanism.